Okay, this video is going to go over the back office employees' permissions and settings and how to create and enable them in your account. Um, the employees are your main back office users. There's three levels of the system. You have your back office, you have the branch, and then you have the agent level. They all have their own login areas, but the back office employees, they get to see and administer all the files that come in through the branches and through the agents. Now, there's some permissions that restrict access to certain branches and agents, and we'll get into that in this video right here. So, click on the person icon, and then you'll see you have the employee option. So you can click on list, it gives you this view. So these are 5 employees that we have active in our system. It gives you their title, what role they have. Keep in mind the manager role is the main role that has administrative rights. Okay, so always remember that. And the rest of the roles that we'll go over include the following. But before I go there, I want to show you just what these columns represent. So you have the name, the check mark right here represents that they can log in. If you click on this, it turns into a red X, which means they cannot log in anymore. And this would mean right here to deactivate the employee altogether. So right now we got rid of that, so now we have 4 employees altogether. And if we want to go back to see who's inactive, you can always click inactive, and it gives you a long list of everybody that used to work there. All their activity in the system will always be saved, and their name will be highlighted red, knowing, when there's notes, if there's statuses that were updated, everything that they did will always be saved, even if you deactivate the employee. So that's important to know. Moving forward, this tells you how many times that they've logged in. So it tells you how active they are in the system. Over here it tells you when they last logged in. That's another important date. And this gives you their password, and then this is their phone number, email, and the company that they're linked to. So now when you open up the employee profile, you have some options here. Obviously here's how you edit their email, and then this is how you change their name. Now right here is an important option, exclusively assigned to a branch. Again, this only applies to companies that have more than one branch, and branches come into play when you have different law offices or other entities that you process on behalf of, or maybe you have different departments that you've set up, and you might want to restrict certain employees to seeing only certain files that belong to these quote-unquote branches. If you check one of these off, that means automatically, if you read this note right here, they will only be allowed to access files for that branch. If nothing is selected, the system thinks by default they can see all files. Always remember that. Alternate to processing company. We added that in there in case you have other employees that are not tied to your particular company. Maybe they work for a third-party company. You can put that information there. And then here's all your roles. You have many roles to choose from: manager, processor, quality control, and the list goes on and on. You can even have listing realtor, buying realtor, HUD agency, investors, servicer rep, network coordinator, sales manager, paralegal, etc., etc. Okay? If you want other roles added, let us know. We can add more to the system for you. Now, going straight into the permissions over here, you'll notice that we have allowed to log in. That just enables the login rights. Allowed to view all files. If that's off, they're only going to be able to see files for their assigned file pipeline. So let me show you what that looks like. Underneath pipeline, you have what's called My Assigned Files. So depending on how that setting is enabled, they'll only be able to see these files here. And again, let me show you how you can assign a file. Right here from the pipeline, you click to assign an employee. So I want to make sure we assign a processor, Jane Smith. She's assigned. Click Save. And now this file belongs to Jane Smith, and she's the processor. So when she logs into her assigned files, she's only going to see the files that we manually linked to her account. Moving forward, allowed to Excel download. This is an option from the pipeline. Right here is an Excel icon. When you click on it, you can generate a report that gives you all this information. So the first search I did, maybe I narrowed my search down to all files that are missing documents from this particular branch, or maybe I'm trying to pull files that belong to a certain lender in a certain state. Whatever my search query is, I can then export it to Excel and have a nice Excel report. But then the other question is, well, what pieces of data do I want in my Excel report? Well, that's why we give you this pop-up window, and it says, well, hey, we've got 500 plus fields in the system. You possibly can't want all of them, so tell us which ones you do want, and they're already organized and categorized for you, and then you just check off what you want, so you can get a nice, customized, detailed report with the information that you actually really need. Okay? Next one down, list and third-party authorization form. Every system comes with the built-in authorization form, but the parties' names that show up on there, who's allowed to be contacted on this particular third-party authorization form, this employee will show up. If it's no, then they don't show up. And moving forward, we have allowed to create files. That's when they log in. Do you want them to be able to create new files or just administer the ones that are already there? Can they create tasks? Can they see the dashboard? Allowed to see private notes. That's a really big one. Certain people might not be allowed to see all notes. So when you make a note on a file, you can mark it as private or public. The private notes, only your internal people can see it that have permission to see private notes. Otherwise, if they don't have permission, then they'll only see notes that you mark as public. Okay? Next one down, allowed to delete, replace uploaded docs or e-sign docs. So as people upload documents in the system, do you want them to be able to administer that kind of stuff? Most of the time the answer is yes, but if they're a restricted user, then you want to mark that as no. Do you want them to be able to edit or delete their own notes? For safety reasons, you want to mark that as no, but if you trust the employee, then mark it as yes. Do you want them to see billing information? Like, do you want them to see what is owed on every file? From an accounting standpoint, you may not need them to see that kind of stuff unless they have accounting or fiduciary duties. So they can turn that on or off. Permission to submit to REST, that's a third-party automated decisioning engine that we have, that maybe certain employees are trained on it, that know how to use it, so you can turn that on or off. Allowed to edit files, yes, no, or follow the PC settings. PC stands for Processing Company Settings, which we went over in one of our previous videos, which basically kind of shows you, let's see. Okay, so allowed to edit files, it gives you three options, yes, no, or follow PC settings. That's located in the company profile section, primary file status. And we have different permission settings up here. Remember when you edit one of these statuses, it asks you, is this back office employee allowed to update and edit the file when it falls in this approved status, yes or no? So you can follow these detailed settings up here, or you can override the settings by saying, yes, he can always administer and edit the files regardless of the PC settings, or no, ignore those PC settings and just don't let him edit any files. He's in read-only mode, basically. So those are the three different options there. Allowed to send homeowner a link for real-time updates. This is a private label feature that you can actually send a link to the homeowner so they can log in and manage their updates and upload documents and see what's going on with their file. DIY clients, that's for the DIY module, basically. If you don't have that, it's not applicable. And this last one, would you allow this employee to update the admin section of the file? It's just another control that lets them change the status of the file. In certain statuses, you may not want them to do that, so you can control that on or off.